in-house. So I direct most of the design and part of the development of the designs as well. And recently we've ventured into prototyping, and also we're looking forward to being an OEM, basically a sports car manufacturer, which has been my childhood dream, and it's slowly materializing. One stage has been completed. We've already developed a pre-production proto, or a show proto, which was showcased in the Delhi Auto Expo in 2016. And currently we are developing the production proto. We are almost halfway through. Unfortunately, the crisis struck, and things are on a standstill, but we are hoping, things revive, bounce back soon, and we can get back to work. And so that's where we stand now. And a little bit about my educational background. I've done my BE Mechanical from RVC Engineering in Bangalore. Then I went on to do my Master's in Automotive Engineering from MS Rami Advanced Studies through Coventry University. Then, in spite of doing all that, I still felt, there was a void in what I wanted. And that's when I realized I had, my flair was more towards design. So then I pursued a transportation course from Coventry University, UK. And post that, I came back. I set up a small business. Couple of years, it was only doing a lot of research. And then I started developing a few products, and then entered the market slowly. So it was a very, very slow curve. There's a lot of learning involved. Initially, it was just me and a few people in the team. And there was scarcity of skills. So I had to get ordinary people, train them, and make them do extraordinary work. So there were lots of ups and downs. There were a lot of challenges. But, I stayed put. Irrespective of the challenges thrown at me, I kept I had massive faith in my vision, and that hunger to do what I always wanted to do is, what helped me progress so far. So that's, in a nutshell, I hope you guys got a picture of what I do and how I function. Yogi?
Yeah, Shahid. Shahid, so primarily most of the students want to understand, first is if they have to create a career in cars or car designing, how should they go about this journey? Like, are there any certificate courses or any particular stream that they should choose to be able to do that? That is first that they want to understand.
Yeah, see, when you say car design, of course, the term design, it's definitely the creative side of, the engineering thing. It's what gives character to functionality. Am I right?
Correct.
So it's important that you have some flair for design. I know everybody is crazy about cars. The thought of cars, the fancy shapes, colors, they get excited. But there's a lot of hardship in all that. It looks very flowery from the outside. So it is very essential for you to identify whether you're a creative person or you are a technical person. That is very, very important, because even I've done my engineering, it was completely engineering, it was completely technical, but it sort of didn't complete my package to build the car what I wanted to, or to support my vision. So it is very important to identify what you're good at, and not to worry. Even if you're not a creative person, you can still be in the field of automotive, because it's it has several verticals, and you can be a part of some verticals in it. It's not just the creative side, but like I said, if you want to get started as a designer, as a car designer, then it's important that you explore your creative skills. That are you able to put your ideas on paper? See, naturally, for me, I had some natural skills. I was good at drawing, I was good at sketching, I was good at painting. I could express my ideas on paper. But even that wasn't sufficient, because when you go onto a professional level, there are certain techniques you need to follow to ensure that you are expressing your ideas in the right manner. Because when you're putting a sketch on paper, you are basically communicating, not by words, by lines, curves, colors. You're putting three-dimensional object on 2D. So, there is a lot of training that is involved, especially with your mind and your hands, because it's essential that you get those lines and curves and perspectives right to express your idea. So that is the creative side of it. Now, let's say you're not good at it. don't be in despair. Don't lose hope. There are so many verticals related to design, because if you just put your ideas on paper, it's not going to come as a product. There is an engineering side to it. There is a development side to it. So let's say you're a software professional. Okay, you're good with computers, but you love cars, but you can't really, sketch. No problem. You can be a 3D sculptor, because after the concept stage, it goes to 3D digital sculpting stage, where you actually build the surfaces of the car in virtual reality. And that data becomes your data for production. So once that data is ready, then there's production management. So if you're a management student, you love cars, you can be managing a design project. Yeah. So let's say now again coming back to engineering, you're not a creative person, but you love motorsports. There is motorsports engineering. There are specific courses for that. So I'm telling you, it's an ocean. So if you just see some car on the road, if it's functioning fine, remember there are thousands of people and millions of dollars that has been spent to make it look right and function right. So irrespective of whichever domain you're from, you always have an opportunity in automotive engineering, automotive designing. So that's how it works. So like I said, if you're a software guy, you can work on automotive software. Then CAD, CAM, so that is computer-aided manufacturing, computer-aided surfacing, computer-aided styling. And if you're a very creative person, you can just be around a lot of marker pens and sketchbooks and keep throwing your ideas on paper. So the opportunities are vast. But in India, some of people like me or our skills, it's not really appreciated, because a lot of things are still in the infant stages. But eventually, India is a huge market. Things will pick up, and you have tons of opportunities lying ahead of you. And so like I said, engineering, design. Let's say you're not good with both of it, but you're a very hands-on person. You have ideas, but you know how to build it. You know how you're good with modeling. Then you can be a clay modeler. You can be a pattern maker. You can be into prototyping, because that again is a very, very important stage in design. Because after your concept stage, you may have a CAD model, but then visualizing in CAD does not give you the complete feel of the product. It is very essential that you have a 360-degree view, so that you can touch and feel and see all the proportions of the car. So that's where clay modelers come into place. They are actually the guys who sculpt the entire vehicle to the actual scale. And that's where the management or at the board level, the decision happens whether they should enter the market or not. Because they are the ones who throw the problem. They are the ones who throw the requirement at you. Let's say X company needs an SUV in the market. They think, okay, SUV has a scope. So they are the ones who decide, okay, for this budget, an SUV has to be rolled out in so many years. So then the design team develop the concepts, and the clay modelers develop it in 1:1 scale and show it to the team. And they are the one who decide some changes have to be made or not, whether it has to go into the market or not. So I'm telling you, from paper to product, there are so many areas, so many domains where you can be a part of. Yeah. So if you would like to know something more, please ask me. I would like to share my experience.
Sure. Shahid, I'm sure there is a lot of processes involved, right? As you mentioned, there is first we design it on paper, and then display, and then it gets into production. If you can give us like a brief overview of, okay, from design to getting onto the road, what exactly is involved in this process?
Yeah, like I said, first is the requirement. Based on people's preferences, based on market trends. Let's say you need a small hatchback, because hatchbacks are very popular in India. Okay, the requirement is we need to seat 4 people. It should have luggage space, because Indian people, their culture, tradition, they need to carry a lot of stuff. Yeah, so those sort of requirement comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Then goes to the design team. They come out with concepts.
Okay.
So that can go on for many months. So once we list out or zero down to a few options, then the 3D sculptors, they come into the picture. They start making 3D sculptures. And before that, there is something called packaging and ergonomics. So packaging is what determines how all the components in the car have to be packaged. So that then parallelly, even your ergonomics, that also determines how much headroom you have, how much leg room you have, etc., etc. You know, how many people it can accommodate. And then you can't make mistakes like, you know, you have a small car, very big engine, very big car, a small fuel tank. So all these things have to be optimized. So everybody works concurrently, you know, the designers, the engineers, all of them work concurrently. So once you have finalized your concept on, you know, 3D as well, then it goes to the clay studio. You actually start building a full-scale model of it. Then if that goes well, then the company decides to build an actual working prototype of it. Yes. Okay. Then prototype, it depends on the complexity of the project. Prototype 1, 2, 3, even sometimes up to 4 prototypes can be built. So that all depends on how much of data the company has had, how much of experience the company has had in previously building a lot of cars. So they sort of take that data, certain things will be benchmarked to avoid the cost of unnecessarily developing a lot of prototypes.
Got it.
So data is very, very important there. So once your prototype is done, again it goes for testing, more analysis, more validation, more refinement, and then a complete package for production is made ready. Then people, then from the CAD, then the CAD data is refined, then it's prepared for tooling. So that becomes your data for tooling. Then once it comes for tooling, then it has to be production ready. So the production has to be managed. This is your budget, this is your time frame, this is your resources. So all that comes into picture. And even at the time of production, every component goes through testing, goes through analysis, goes through validation, and only then, you know, the car rolls out onto the streets and it's made available to the public. Yes, parallelly, I forgot to mention, the roadworthiness is done through a lot of analysis virtually and physically in the real world through crash tests. For example, occupant safety, airbags, braking system. You know, then there's something called, I'm not able to get the word. Basically, it's to test that all electronic components in your car do not interfere with each other. Because it can cause a lot of problems. Because electronic components emit frequency waves. So this should not interact with other electronic equipments, you know. It can hamper the functionality of the car because nowadays all cars are computer controlled, unlike, you know, what we used to have 15 or 20 years ago. So these are the things that come into the picture. So yeah, like I forgot to mention about the testing part. So that also happens at virtual level. And like I said, once the production ready models are ready, even that is sent for testing. Only if it passes, it can go to production. Or they have to come back to the drawing board. The engineers have to reiterate everything, make sure it is safe, only then go for production. So that is also involved in the whole process. So that's pretty much an overview of, you know, the whole, I think you got the whole assembly line, you know, running in your mind.
Totally. I'm visualizing every single step. It's like I come into a house, I see the hall, and then I'm taken to one of the rooms and another room. Correct. Like portion by portion.
So yeah, one more thing, you know, as I'm talking, I'm recollecting. I forgot to mention, there are people who specifically do the interior design as well. And there's something called CFM, that is color, finish, material. They are the ones who decide how the interior color should be, how the texture of the dashboard should be, how the touch and feel of the buttons should be, how the touch and feel of the leather should be, or whichever fabric you're using. So all that plays with your emotion, you know, because somebody sits in the car, a lot of factors determine how comfortable you are, how happy you are in the car. Got it. So all these factors come into play. It's a very emotional thing apart from the design part of it. You know, there is engineering, and like I said, it's basically you should try and equate functionality and character. Because you can't have something which performs very well but does not look very appealing. Am I right? Yeah, people always want, because, you know, somebody buys a car, it's a sense of ownership, it's a sense of achievement for them. So as manufacturers, as designers, you want to make sure those dreams are fulfilled that way. It is very, very essential. You have to be committed. You have to give it your best. They're spending hard-earned money on that. And not just that, it's also the reputation of the company, and that's how the brand becomes exclusive in many ways. You understood? So these are the roles people play when a car is designed.
Perfect. So Shahid, it's like these compartmentalized activity that you've given us a clarity on, from requirement gathering to
production
concepts to ergonomics, then clay modeling, clay studio, and then finally getting into production management and then color, finish and material too. So it's like it's like, how long is this process for, Shahid, if I have to ask this?
See, for example, if you take big manufacturers, every time they launch, the design cycles from concept to, from paper to product, it takes anywhere between 5 to 7 years.
Wow.
That's why you see, let's take an example of a Mercedes or something like that. Let's say you have different generation of cars. If you see, every generation is 7 or 8 years. Let's say the current S-Class is particular generation. The previous S-Class, the previous generation was totally different shape, but that was 7 years old.
Whoa.
So that is, but things have, changed. I mean, things are picked up also, but those companies for certain premium models, that is the lifespan, it goes, but there are smaller models which are, lower in cost, in terms of cost of producing, and faster in terms of, developing. Those sort of things change. So in between, if you notice, they do a smart thing called a facelift. You see, okay, let's take an example of a small hatchback. Let's take the i20. When i20 was launched, it had a certain design detail. After 2 years, what they do is they refresh it. They just change probably the shape of the headlamps, the shape of the bumpers, but the overall chassis, the overall silhouette, overall package, everything remains same. So what's happening is they're reducing the cost of bringing a new change. Every time they cannot change the entire vehicle because millions of dollars are invested in tooling, and by the time they get the returns, it takes years. They have to sell, tens and thousands, or even probably 500,000 units to recover that. So that's the time it takes for the entire cycle from start to finish. That's the reason you don't see cars changing generations 2-3 years, because there is an economic side also to it. They have to recover the money, they have to make profits, and those profits are again invested in making newer models.
Got it.
It's very simple. You invest in a business, you can't expect returns in 1 or 2 months. Usually the break even is 1 or 2 years, depending on the scale of your business. Similarly with products, there is a break even time for that as well. So that's how it goes. So they do the facelift, then probably one more facelift, and then they change the generation, so that every time a car somebody is buying, they don't want to feel like, thousands of other people have the same car. What is new in this? So again, that's to keep the consumer or the buyer engaged and give a feeling of freshness in the product. So yeah, that's the idea behind.
Beautiful. I think we've got an idea of what exactly is the business side to car designing or getting a car into the market. And on the other side, we've also got the complete journey also mapped. On this note, I want to understand, or most of us actually had this question, right? What was your journey like in building Hyperion 1? So once, just to clarify, right? Once we get this clarity, we're going to
understood.
Up for Q&A for everyone else to ask their questions.
See, firstly, like I said, it started as a dream. When you have a dream, you don't have reasons. You just want it. It's more like a wish. So I never thought of the economic side at that point of time. I just wanted to, gain experience, grasp knowledge, which will help me do that. So yes, it was a very, very challenging and painful journey so far, because unlike other big companies, I was just an individual, all by myself. Okay, and I had this dream of building a car. But so as an individual, it was very, very challenging, because slowly over the years, my team grew to a small size, but still that was not sufficient to take up such a big challenge. So everything what was done manually. Everything is handcrafted excellence. I could not think of building a product how other MNCs would be doing, like, have fancy engineering team, and then, thousands of square feet of equipments and assembly line. No, this approach was totally different. This was for me, it was more of, making a point that with limited resources, even with limited, even with a small team, you can do beautiful things. It is about making your point that, it's about the design prowess, it's about the design language, it's about the kind of hardship that goes in, that, these limited sources. So, I learned that it is possible. I never calculated, is there a market or not? No, I thought I will build something and then make a market for it.
Got it. That's like the Steve Jobs kind of vision, right?
It is very, very daring, but like I said, that hunger was so strong, the passion was so strong. I love to build things. I'm a very hands-on person. If I see something, for me, it's not like, I want to immediately buy it. That curiosity sets in. I'm always intrigued by the fact that how was it built? How do they get that fit and finish? Because every beautiful product creates that strong, it evokes that want in you to own it. So I thought I have to build products which will motivate people to buy it, which will make them proud to own it. That's a very, very strong motivating factor for me. Then rest of the things just fall in place, man. It is like that. If you have a vision, then it's your convictions, it's your faith, it's your belief in what you're doing. Then you will start reaching out to people. You will start gaining knowledge. You'll go places which will help you fulfill that dream, which will help you, make sure your vision comes to life. So it's a lot of life science as well. I know there is no golden rule, or I can't suggest a textbook. You read this and you'll become a car designer. You can bring the car. No, it's not like that. It's not like that. So this is the thought process behind all of that, and these are the challenges I have faced. And many a times I built something, I would have spent months together. Then I realized, no, this is totally wrong. Then you start all over again. You can't help it. So you get stuck because you did something wrong, and to correct that, you have to get the right knowledge. So it is a learning curve. You go back, you learn, you do it the right way, then you go to the next step. So stage by stage, that is how you learn, that is how you build. It's a beautiful process, but I'm telling you, you should have enormous amount of patience. You should have enormous amount of patience. It's not as fancy as it looks. It becomes fancy only when you go through all these hardships and you finally build the product and admire it. Then you can say, yes, it's beautiful. You achieved it.
Totally.
So pretty much that's how the life science behind doing it. Then yes, the technical part of it, you have to gain the knowledge and do it. That is, yeah.
Totally. So it was so from my understanding is you took up Motormind and Hyperion as a startup, and then you built it with whatever limited resources you had, and then brought it to where it is right now. So right now, what stage is Hyperion at? Is it into production phase, or what phase it is?
See, this is my 8th year into the project. It's a long journey, and seriously, I still not gained anything out of it. But I'm hoping, yes, one day the doors will open. I'm waiting for that.
Got it.
So this is my 8th year of project, but successfully I built my first prototype. This is a functional prototype with whatever knowledge and experience I had. I never relied on resources from abroad, or I never relied on any other consultants or company. Nothing. It was whole and soul mine, because there was a risk involved, and I was always hesitant to spend too much money on it. So that is the reason I came up with a lot of homegrown techniques to bring my ideas to life. Now that is the beautiful part of it. I could have always pestered my father, said I want millions of rupees. But no, whenever I thought of wasting money, it was a very painful thought, because we know how much our fathers have struggled to make every penny and give us this comfort.
Totally.
So I took it. For me, it was a challenge like that. Let me see what I can do by myself with minimum resources. And I think I was able to prove it with God's blessings and with the support of my entire family. I was able to prove it. So that is the approach, I had. I didn't want to take too much risk. And like I said, that helped me discover so many new processes. Maybe there are better processes in the market. I didn't venture into it because they were expensive. Now, like you asked, what stage we are in? Yes, we have progressed a lot, because in that journey of building that prototype, I came in contact with so many people, so many valuable resources. All of that I'm putting together now, because what I realized is, or what everybody realizes in their journey of work or entrepreneurship, is that you cannot be good at everything. You cannot be good at everything. You can be expert in few things, but not everything. That is where other experts come into the picture. That is where collaborations, that is where partnerships, that is where team building comes into picture. So you learn all of this. You learn all of this. I mean, I'm not a management student. I'm a proper, half-bred engineer, I can say. Totally. I've read so much and I've forgotten so much. God knows what I'm applying. God knows what I'm not applying. It's like that. So you learn so many beautiful things when you are committed. You have to be committed. That is very important. You have to be patient. So that's what brought us so far. And now the production prototype has really matured. In that build, we have used, we have followed strict industry standards and industry practices, because safety, reliability, efficiency, all that comes into picture here. So no compromise is done in the production prototype. We are almost halfway through. We've started testing the car, and now we are in the stage of going in for tooling for the exterior body of the car. But unfortunately, this crisis has struck, and that's sort of on standby. I have to wait for the conditions to improve and resume that stage. I think post tooling, we should be ready for production. If it was happening now, maybe another 5 to 6 months, car would have been ready for production. Parallelly, I'm also trying to get it homologated in our country, which is, I think, the biggest challenge. My challenge of building the car was nothing.
God.
Okay, so I'm sincerely looking forward for the government to support us regarding this, because unlike other countries, our country does not have policies or regulations or exemptions or provisions which allow us to produce such cars, because we are manufacturing very small numbers, maximum about 50 cars a year. That's it, because everything starts small, right? You can't directly jump into building thousands of cars.
Of course.
Like I said, and yeah, my vision is different, and the category in which the car fits, it's also totally different. So I am trying to understand how the government or the ministry can support us to make the car road legal, because like I said, unlike other countries like UK, Germany, or even the GCC, they all have policies to make such cars road legal. See, why I'm emphasizing so much on this is because since we are making in small quantities, we need certain exemptions. Like, we can't think of crashing 12 or 15 cars to make it roadworthy. We are making only 50 cars. Then if you crash so many cars, it's gone, finished. No, it's also affecting the economics of the business. So that's why other countries have laws basically to support small manufacturers. Because today I may be making 50 cars with those laws, but when you're going to 1,000 cars, those laws change. But what it is helping me is those laws are helping me grow. Now here those laws don't exist, so I'm not getting a kickstart over there. But nonetheless, what if it can't be road legal, definitely we will be selling it as track cars, so that users can take it to the track and have the best of driving thrills. And another good news is, in the GCC we have an opportunity to make it road legal, because laws exist there. But for me, this is more of a country thing than a company thing. This is bred here. This is homegrown here. I want our country to have this first before it goes elsewhere. So I'm sincerely looking forward to that. It's quite challenging, going from pillar to post, knocking all the doors. You never know, because they don't have an idea how to go about this. So probably even CII could help us with that. It's not very difficult. It's only because somebody is doing it for the first time and there are no policies to support that. So a lot of documentation, a lot of convincing is required, for concerned authorities to make it happen. But yeah, I will keep pushing. I'm that kind.
Of course. So that is.
It either happens or it doesn't happen, and why it doesn't happen. That's it. Two things.
Totally, Shahid. Every single entrepreneur is this way, right? Perseverance is the core key component. Perfect. Shahid, thanks a lot for clarifying everything about Hyperion, your journey, and what phase it is at. Now, what we will do is we'll open it up for Q&A with the attendees. We already have about 19 questions here. So I'm just opening it up. So we have a first question from a mechanical engineering student. His question is, as a mechanical engineer, have anything to do with car designing, or does he need to take up automobile engineering specifically?
See, your bachelor's degree becomes the base. Those are your fundamentals. Then yes, if you have to specialize, you have to go in for a master's in automotive engineering. There is no doubt about that. You know, it's very simple. It's like you do MBBS, then without doing MD, you cannot specialize. You have to. You have to. So with an engineering background to become an automotive designer, yes, definitely possible. Because in my case, I had an engineering degree. I didn't have a arts degree. So I applied to the university, they rejected. So what they offered was, they offered me a pre-master's course, which is sort of a tailored program. So that is a prerequisite for you to go to the master's program. You know, it's very important. Without knowing letters, you can't make words. Without knowing words, you can't make sentences. It's like that. There is no shortcut. Don't try to do that in your okay. So things are done. Yes, it has to be done the hard way. But yes, even if you are doing mechanical engineering, that is not going to stop you from becoming a car designer. Like I said in the beginning of the conversation, try to understand if you have a flair for that. Try to understand if you have a flair for creativity, if you're good in drawing. Try it. If yes, fantastic. Otherwise, don't worry. Like I said, there are so many other verticals where you can, dive into. Absolutely no problem. Nothing is restricted, man.
Totally. So in that, on that note, we have a quick question from a 6th standard boy. Yeah. So we have kids too. He's excited about it. But his major question is, he sees 2 robots behind you. According to him, 2 robots behind you. What exactly are they?
Okay, because see, for me again, I'm very inspired by all these sci-fi things. I know in real life it doesn't, but again, it's something got to do with feeling your soul. I just love those kind of forms and designs, and you never know. One day I could be flying in one of those because my next passion is human flight.
Totally.
If I'm crazy enough, I must start opening some books and start doing some R&D, forget my family and try and do something. You never know. But like the kid asked, these robots, I maybe you can see. I'll give you a closer look. Yeah. Okay. So these were built at the time of the Auto Expo. So I didn't want girls wearing short, skimpy clothes in my stall. So I came up with the idea of having these robots. Yeah, I mean they had a bigger impact than having some models in your stall. And like I said, I love doing it. I'm fascinated by all these sci-fi characters. And again, for me, I love building, and I wanted to explore whether I can build something like that. So I took a mannequin, sketched out a few concepts, and this bank started building them right away. Again, that took many months, 3 to 4 months. And all those parts in that are detachable, basically held by magnets. You can disassemble everything, put it in a box. Because I have to also think of transporting all this from here all the way till Delhi.
Got it.
So that's the idea behind that. Now I'm also working on a newer version. I'm trying to build something which I can wear.
Yeah. So like the Iron Man suit?
Yeah, something like that. Again, those are going to be like the sci-fi drivers of the Hyperion 1. The idea is, let's say the customer is taking a delivery. Then we are going to suit up in these characters, go and give him a time of his life. Yes, my idea is to try and create an imaginary experience around the user. It's not like buying a normal car. My car is not a normal car. It's an experience. It's going to have a different impact in your life. So there are so many things that are required to make it interesting. So these are one of them. So that is the idea behind it.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that, Shahid. Yeah. The experience, as we think about it, right? The moment I can visualize is like, wow. If someone does that, right? I would be like a lifelong fan.
When you look at it, your jaw should drop. You should wonder, where is this? Where am I? What is happening?
Totally.
Yeah,
that shows your creativity, man. So I'm amazed by it. Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
So coming to the next question, this is from Sharat Shashikumar. His question is, how did you actually start designing and prototyping a car right after your masters?
See, I didn't start doing it right after my masters. Like I said, I spent a couple of years trying to understand a lot of manufacturing processes, a lot of manufacturing techniques, a lot of fabrication techniques. When I say fabrication, mostly, manual handcrafting. Then I spent a lot of time trying to understand what sort of resources and material is available locally. I live in Bangalore, so when I was back in the uni, I used to get access to fancy materials to bring my ideas to life. There was styrofoam and there was Seba wood and so many other things. But here, all those weren't available, and they were even if it was not economical. So I had to find alternative materials.
Got it.
Alternative materials, alternative techniques also to build it. So I spent a lot of time in that. So, but God's blessing, I'm like I said, I'm a very hands-on person. If I see something, I immediately get ideas what could be used, what could not be used, and how I can form it and bring it to the desired shape and all that. So I spent a lot of time trying to understand what is available around me. Started accumulating all those. Started building small projects to understand. Okay, is this working or not? When that was successful, step by step, we started building bigger. I never directly jumped into building the entire car. No. I did a lot of other smaller exercises to find out my strengths and weaknesses. Simple as that. So, like the student asked, if you're planning to do something, take smaller tasks, see if you can accomplish that, then go step by step. That will also help you understand whether you're good at it or not, whether you're enjoying it or not. Because many a times it happens that you have fancy desires, but when you actually start doing it, it may be a different story. It can give you a complete different picture. So it will help you understand whether you're good at it or not, and whether you want to pursue, with that. So that was my approach, and I think that was scientific, practical, and economical also. So yeah.
Beautiful. I think that answers your question. If you have any follow-up questions, Sharat, do ask. Coming to the next question. So this question is from, one second, I lost the question. Sumukha B.
Okay.
What do you think are probably the question is how to make racetracks more accessible to the average Indian enthusiast?
No, very simple. You should get a job, make sure you earn well. Okay. But yeah, racetracks to make it accessible. I think it is quite accessible now. Probably the person who asked the question may not be knowing, because I'm somebody who loves to do track days. And here, I don't know where he was. Sorry, where does he stay? From Bangalore?
I don't know.
Because.
Hey Sumukha, are you there? Which place are you from? Hello?
Yeah, Bangalore.
Bangalore. Okay, Bangalore. See, the entry level of motorsport thrill is go-karting. Okay, there are so many go-karts around. You can just look up online, go to your nearest,
No, I'm talking about taking my actual car to the racetrack.
Yes, you can. For example, in Chennai, they have track days where you can take your car. They have a minimum fee, okay, and they have a briefing. They'll brief you on your safety regulations, driving ethics on the track, and I think they also give you a brief training, and you're good to go. You can take any car; it doesn't matter. They will just do a fitness check of your car to make sure your tires, brakes are okay, because your safety is also important. You must have gloves, you must have helmets. Okay, it's good to go. I mean, it's been happening from many years, and if you feel you're good at it, you can even start looking at making that as a profession. Perfect. I hope that answers your question, man.
We hope so. If you have any follow-up questions, do let us know.
Please.
In the meanwhile, there's another question. Does the design team have a separate aerodynamics team?
Yeah, in fact, I forgot to touch on that topic, aerodynamics. Yes, that is something which happens parallelly in the design process. Like I said, after your CAD model, after your clay model, then cars are put into a wind tunnel. In the sense, the scale model is put into a wind tunnel to understand the aerodynamic efficiency of the car, Also, if there are any negative effects on the car, because for a car you need downforce, not lift. Lift is required for aircraft. If there is some flow of surface which is creating lift, it's bad. Your car can come off the road and can lead to accidents. So yes, there is a team parallelly which works on the aerodynamics as well. Again, they do it virtually, they do it physically also. If you're a software person, extensive aerodynamic analysis happens on software. Again, with previous data and benchmarking and a lot of other things, again, depending on what category and what sort of performance level is required for the car. If you're doing aerodynamic analysis for a sports car, it's totally different. If you're doing it for a Formula 1 car, it's totally different. If you're doing it for a road car, it's totally different, because having too much drag also puts too much load on the engine and reduces the efficiency as well. So everything has to be optimized. So similarly, an aerodynamic team works concurrently to make sure everything is optimized.
Beautiful.
I hope that answers your question.
I hope so too. If you have any follow-up questions, guys, don't hesitate. Please keep asking. We have the next question from Rahul Bharadwaj. His question is, if assuming there are two different guys, one is the fuel, he's named them the fuel tank guy and the engine guy, who say they want a big tank, but the design and packaging guys say it looks ugly and adds extra curves. How do you make the decision? Is it in terms of form versus function? In terms of forms versus function?
No, like I said, the word optimization, the word balance, it has to come there. Again, it depends. Let's say you have a small car and you're trying to put a big V8 or a let's say a V8 engine. So V8 engines are less efficient. It requires a bigger tank. So this sort of a package can't come in a small car. Then automatically your car becomes longer, it becomes wider, the profile changes, then the category changes. So it all depends on what you are defining in the initial stage. Is like he asked, is a huge fuel tank required? Then the question is why? How far does he want to go? Okay, then designer will say every 50 kilometers there is a fuel station. Why do you need a big tank? So your problem is sort of solved there. Am I right?
True.
Yeah. So that's how you optimize things. That's how you approach things. So everything has to have a balance. It has to fit, and there is always a huge war between the engineering and the engineering team and the designer. Designer says, no, I want this curve to go low like that. His engineer is like, no, your person cannot sit inside. He's like, I don't care. You do something, you make space in the bottom. It's like that. That war happens. But yeah, that's how things work. In spite of all the war happening, finally there's peace, and finally there's a beautiful product that comes out. So it's something that happens, concurrently. It's a cohesive effort.
Beautiful. I think it's always about balance at the end of the day, right?
Yes.
You will have to sacrifice one thing for another thing, or try to bring a balance between both. So same thing in terms of form versus I think performance. I just hope I use the right term there.
Yeah, you see, you can't have a girlfriend and a wife at the same time.
What if both of them are the same?
Then he's out of balance. Simple.
Beautiful. Thanks for taking that in a good tone.
All the young guys who plan to get married or who are in love and all that, take this as a tip.
Perfect.
Okay.
So we'll come to the next question. So there are two questions, two different takes on it. Primarily, this revolves around the software tools that you use. So one question is, do you use Autodesk Alias for conceptual designing? That's the first question. And the second question is, what kind of design softwares will be best for designing a car, and what is the software being used by your team?
See, like I said, some of my work currently is outsourced because the softwares are expensive in terms of licensing. Yeah. So those kind of work are outsourced, because if I have to keep that in-house and for the kind of downtime and all that, the licensing cost will be huge. So what I do, that is one practice what I have. But if you're asking specifically what software needs to be used, that totally depends on the kind of product you're developing and to what extent it has to go, whether you're building a prototype or whether it has to go for production. The approach is totally different. Alias is a very, very important tool from concept even to production, because when it comes to surfacing, that is, I think, the best tool what all the manufacturers use. That is industry benchmark. Okay, if you are at amateur level, if you want to explore your designs, then there are so many other softwares like 3D Max, Maya. There is Blender. Some of them even start with the Google SketchUp, even though it's polygon modeling. Like I said, this is only to explore and understand whether you're good at it. So industry standard is different. Learning standard also is different. But like I said, he asked me specifically about Alias. Alias is very, very important. And yes, even we use it. We use it, yes. And also, next thing is CATIA. CATIA is also very, very important. So a lot of things that goes into production is processed in 3D in CATIA. So CATIA is very, very valuable in terms of giving us 3D data. So Alias, CATIA, then there are so many other simulation software for aerodynamics. There is Fluent, there is Star CCM, then FE analysis, there is ANSYS, etc., etc. The list goes on. It all depends in which domain you're working, what you're focusing on. So I hope that answers your question, because I tend to elaborate a lot, man. I'm sorry, because for me it's important that
No, totally. Shahid, please go ahead. It's not for me that you're doing it. It's for these kids who have come in with so much of experience.
I love to share my experience and guide them, man.
Totally beautiful. So I'm just picking up the next question. This is from Arun Sundar Saravanan. His question is, as a startup, Motormind has a great amount of technical and managerial skills involved in making the Hyperion.
Yeah.
How do you think a fresher from an engineering background can hold a place in your company? Like, what does he have to do to get to work in a automobile manufacturing company to be like a generic kind of a thing?
See, in my case, like I said, we work very differently from how a large manufacturer would work. So somebody who's immediately done his graduation and wants to join a company like mine, not advisable. Because I feel he deserves a better exposure.
Perfect.
Maybe a couple of years he can work in a larger company, and then probably to pursue his passion, he can come and join us. Because that way he may be learning new skills which can be applied here. I may be using certain skill set which may not comply with industry standard, because if he comes here and then he joins another company, it may not be beneficial for it. Okay, see, that is my understanding. But either ways, it could work. But this is what I suggest, because your degree is precious. You spend 4 years or 5 years, 6 years, whatever it is. Try to work in a big company. And then, come to us. If you're coming to me, it will be like time pass. Okay. But yes, definitely what you're going to learn if you join a company like mine is how small companies are run. What is passion? What is multitasking? That you will definitely get to learn here. And even what we are doing, it's not a small thing. We are building a car. I mean, it takes a lot of things to make it functional, and those things are scientific, and definitely it's going to be an experience for you as well. So yes, the options are open. If I feel that yes, you are a very innovative person, definitely we can join hands. There is no problem.
Beautiful. Shahid, just to check, we have about I think about 20 questions here.
Oh,
and we have 5 minutes. Yeah. Would you be okay if we extend the session?
Yeah, no problem. How long do you want to extend? I'm game. No problem.
Just want to make sure everyone's satisfied today. Okay, everyone's questions are done. All right. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Shahid, for doing that. So we have another question from an anonymous attendee. This question specifically speaks about a process where you said there is, once the concept and the ergonomics are fixed, then you get into Clay Studio, right? But in current scenario, there is also 3D printing being deployed in these car manufacturing and to create quicker prototype. What do you think? Isn't that a better usage of technology to create a prototype quicker?
Even now, they still follow the clay modeling approach for a full-scale model. That is why, because the kind of flexibilities it offers to make changes on the fly, 3D printing can't give you. Because once you feed the data into the 3D printer, it will print the final thing and give you. Yes, you can look at it, admire it, but you cannot make any changes, and that is an expensive process.
Mhm.
So this versatility it may not have, but yes, 3D printing again is used in prototyping stage massively, maybe to smaller components. Yes,
Got it.
but I have seen people building full scale in 3D printing as well. But again, the agenda is different of the management, of even the goals of the project. It's totally different. My answer would not be no, but again, it depends on how what goals you have set in terms of approaching the project. Yes.
Okay, 1 second. I'm just picking up the next question. There is a question from Sarath Kumar Sasidharan. His question is, as you said, you spent 2 years exploring your strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
How did you do it along with a job? And how did you manage life along with it, as there are socio-economic constraints on that?
That's a very good question. See, like I said, I hail from a family business. Even when I was studying, I was never job oriented. Now I think I should have, but people make mistakes, and then I had to work for extra months or years to cover up for that. So because I had this family business, I had that economic support. I could take the risk of venturing or exploring something new. Let's say I didn't come from a family background, and immediately after my studies, I have to earn, I have to find a livelihood. Yes, my approach wouldn't have been like this. This is purely a blessing from the Almighty and from my family. So if I didn't have a family business like that, yes, I would have been, running pillar to post to find a job, attending interviews, and make sure I get a job. Probably I'll work for 3-4 years, gain experience, probably have some savings, meet a lot of people, collaborate with them, and come up with the idea of a startup, and then try doing something like this.
Got it.
So it is possible. It is possible. But in my case, since this blessing was there, I jumped that, and I was very stubborn about building things. I wanted to do it my way. So the approach was different. Yes, definitely. If you're somebody who's waiting to finish your course, do a job, do it this way. You can.
Mm-hmm.
Or if your family is willing to support, you have some savings. If you're born rich, then you can take this approach. What I did, but there is a risk.
Mm-hmm.
Try it. After a couple of years, doesn't work. Don't repent. Don't blame me also for that. Okay.
Got it. Beautiful. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yes.
So there is going to be economic constraint for sure. So
there is time and money.
Prepare for it. Please prepare for it if you're getting in.
You're investing time.
Got it. So this is a specific question with respect to Hyperion that we have got. What kind of engine is used in Hyperion 1?
Okay, for the first prototype, I used V6 from a Hyundai Sonata, which was available in the Indian market. Like I said, that time my approach was very, very conservative. I had to keep the cost very low. At the same time, I wanted the engine note to sound amazing, very fulfilling. So the V6 sounds great. And that was the cheapest option available. But it was rather very heavy also, that won't go into production.
Mm-hmm.
So for the production, the package is completely different. It's much more powerful. It's much more lighter. It's much more compact. So for the show prototype, for the first prototype, it was absolutely fine, because that was not going to be a roadworthy model. So that's what I have used for the Hyperion, which is there currently.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
As a follow-up question, there's a question from Sripriyan Srinivasan. His question is, sir, where did you find the design inspiration for Hyperion 1?
Oh, see, like I said, since childhood, I think if I can remember from the age of 4 or 5, I love cars. Even if I find something, I break it open, I separate the wheels, motors, and wheels, sort of thing. So inspiration has always been there since childhood. Like I said, everybody is naturally coded in a certain way. Everybody is, genetically coded in a certain way. What I like, you may not like. So if you feel you like something, that is something which has set in naturally. Correct. So you have to take advantage of that. So for me, that's how that inspiration was born. And in terms of design, the inspiration for the design, I used to love Formula 1 cars. I used to admire Formula 1 cars, the way it looks and especially the way it sounds. So I always wanted to create that experience of a race car on the road. So that's the reason I came out with the concept of open wheel, roadster.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very visceral. It's the wind in the hair sort of an effect. That's what I wanted to give. So F1 cars and also aerospace aircrafts have been very, very inspiring for me. So that's why if you see some elements of the car, a lot of elements are borrowed from aerospace. It has wings and contours and surface which resemble aerospace elements. So it's a combination of Formula One and aerospace, and that's what I'm trying to give. I'm trying to give that experience to the driver.
Beautiful. I think the way you have taken us through the journey, and this actually has given us like this. You have this light bulb moment in your head, right?
Yeah.
This glowing is happening in my head right now.
This light bulb used to flicker a lot many years back.
It just slowed down. Probably there are a lot of resistance right now with all the education.
You have all uninterrupted power systems in your head, and
Totally, Shahid. Shahid, on that note, there is a joke that is shared by Rahul Bharadwaj, right? You said you didn't want to have girls in skimpy clothes being models for your car, right? So he's asking about why not have robots in skimpy clothes or mannequins in skimpy clothes. That's
see, then the question arises: why should robot have clothes at all? It is a robot.
I think Rahul, that answers your question.
That's the answer, man. That's the answer, because humans have to be covered. Robots don't have to be covered.
Totally. Yes. Beautiful. Okay, Shahid, on that note, there is a major question that's come in, and multiple people have touched upon this question, right?
Okay.
Now with all these fuels becoming a challenge for us, like these fossil fuels becoming like a limited supply being available to us, and a lot of us are moving towards the electric car and electric vehicle or solar vehicle kind of a concept.
That is the future. Yes.
What do you think is going to be the future for electric cars in India? Do you think the next generation cars will completely be replaced by battery cars?
Yes, eventually that's going to happen. By 2030, what I've read or understood is that 30% of the cars will be electric. 30% of the car population. Okay, and by 2050, I think almost 90%, or you can say 100%. Right now,
Shahid, I think we missed you there.
Hello? Is because of the infrastructure.
Shahid, we lost you in between. I think the last sentence we couldn't hear you. If you can repeat that, please.
Okay. What was the last word you heard?
2030 is what I remember.
Okay, 2030, 30%. See, these statistics could change.
Totally.
Okay, because now see, Corona has hit. So people would have projected 2020, this is going to happen, that is going to happen. Nothing has happened. So these things can always change, because market trends are only predicted. Unless you arrive at that time, you won't know what actually is happening. Yeah. So these are just very vague, rough figures. So that is what experts say. By 2030, 30% to 40% should, mostly 30%. Then by 2050, everything should be electric. But now, why things are not able to progress so fast is because of the infrastructure. Because we need charging stations, correct? And there are technologies advanced. There are cars even that can travel up to 300, 350 kilometers per hour. 300 kilometers as well. But still, unless you have charging stations at very frequent intervals, people will be hesitant to go out. And not just that, electric cars are expensive now. As long as people have achieved.
Shahid. Hello. Did we lose Shahid? Shahid, your system froze. One second, guys. I think his system froze. Okay, I'll just give him a quick call. Hello?
Sorry, I think I lost you.
I think the system froze. One second, is it from my end? No. It's my end is okay. Can you just check? Sure. Okay, thank you. Guys, he had a small internet disruption. He'll join in a moment. In the meanwhile, we are trying to pick up groups of questions so that on the paucity of time, I'm trying to group 2-3 questions together to get it answered. If you have any questions, quickly post it in. So we'll try to get every single question answered, guys. Shritam, have you put it in a Q&A window? I can't. Oh, yeah. We've got your question too, Shritam. We will pick it up one by one. This is the problem with technology. Manoj Adiga, yes, we're asking yours. So in case Shahid wants to connect with you, do share it. So I'll share it with him too. This is like the beauty of technology, man. I love it. So sometimes it's completely like takes you off.
Hi, Yogi.
Hey, Shahid, you're back. 1 second, Shahid. I'll just pin your video.
There was some problem with the network. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Yeah. So yeah, coming back to what I was saying about the electric car. So now the only thing that is stopping from proliferation or rapid expansion is the infrastructure, because the infrastructure, setting up infrastructure is costs a lot, and again, a lot of government regulations and policies also control all of that. But yes, eventually the future is electric. So if things go well with the Hyperion, probably 2 or 3 years down the lane, we are looking at developing an all-electric prototype as well. So because we have to be ready for the future as well.
Totally. A perfect, Shahid.
Yeah.
Shahid, so now there are varied questions. Till now, I was trying to group some of these questions together. Now, all of them have a separate segment. I'll try to pick up these questions one at a time. So the next question is from Shritam Dash. His question is, can I be both a part of creative team and the 3D sculpting team?
Yes, of course. Why not? Like I said, there is no hard and fast rule that restricts you from doing certain things. It all depends. If you have the skill set, naturally you will be in that. 100% you will be. There is no doubt about it. You can be a good 3D sculptor. You can create your own data, and that data you're going to take it and do the clay modeling or the physical sculpting as well. Yes, definitely. If you're good at it, yes, man, you will be there. There is no doubt about it.
Got it. Perfect. Thanks for clarifying that, Shahid. Shahid, coming to the next question. This is from Dhyaga Suresh. His question is, which has more value? Just the design or getting it into production? I think this is with respect to the cars.
I think so. He wants to know what has more value to production.
Yeah, more value. Yes.
See, every design team has many designers. See, I'm talking about large manufacturer. So every designer plays a role in specific areas. If there are people who only design mirrors and handles and wheels also. So it's a collective effort. It's not in a large organization. It's not just a single guy's sketch that goes to production. Yes, there will be a design director. There will be a senior designer. There will be a junior designer. There will be lead designers. But the design director is the one who finally decides what goes to the management, and then the engineering, and then to the production. So when you ask in terms of value, every little effort you put has a lot of value.
Got it. Perfect.
Yes. So you can't say like, if I sketch, does that have value if it goes for production? If it has to go for production, you have to start sketching first. So everything has value. And if you only sketch and if there's no production, it remains on paper. That's it. It becomes bedroom wallpaper material. That's it. So, okay.
Totally.
So yeah, it depends how you define your goals, your objectives, what you're doing it for. Simple as that.
Perfect. Totally. That totally makes sense. With that, the next question is from Nitikesh Chauhan. His question is, what was your greatest accomplishment as an automobile designer?
Oh, I think, there is nothing that I can tag as, the greatest or the best. Because if I'm doing something big right now, it's because all these smaller things I have achieved.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I started off just by making styling kits, just bumpers and modifying, body balance of the car. And now we have the skill set and the resources to make a full functional car as well. So I think the entire journey is big for me. I cannot outline, certain things in that. But yes, definitely something which I really, appreciate about myself. I'm not feeling proud or anything. It's not good to feel proud or arrogant about anything. I'm just saying patience, that is the most important thing here. I think if you have that intact, I think you can overcome anything, man. You must have a lot of patience.
I think
nourishing that, nurturing that patient is definitely a great achievement for me.
So on that note, you said patience is one of the most important skills, Shahid. So not just as a car designer, but as every single student has to develop patience, right? Because that's like one of the most critical skills to have. True.
It's always easy to be lazy or stubborn and all that, but yes, patience is it's virtue of strong men. Embrace it.
Totally. So we have a question from Virendra Verma. Now it speaks about career side of it. His question is, he wants to pursue a career as an automobile aerodynamicist. Okay, I hope I got the term.
Yes,
aerodynamicist. And I need to know how to achieve my goal and what is the process or course that I should do.
Sorry, what is he studying right now?
He's doing mechanical engineering, bachelor's in mechanical engineering.
Fantastic. So, which semester? I don't know. I can't remember. You will be studying about fluid dynamics. You will be studying about thermodynamics. So, fluid dynamics plays a very, very crucial role in aerodynamics. It's basically the study or the study and the behavior of airflow over surfaces.
Got it.
Okay. So, if you are doing engineering, make sure fluid dynamics you focus very well if you are interested in the field of aerodynamics, because all those formulas and derivations and theorems will all come. Okay. Because I'm not a very number friendly person, but I know it's very important as well. So because I'm not good at it, there are others who are doing it for me. So if you think that's your area of expertise, then focus on these. Then yes, definitely you can be a part of the aerodynamic testing team.
Perfect. Thanks for answering that. We have a question from Subhash. I'll try to unmute him because he's been waiting to talk to you, I guess. Hey Subhash, can you unmute yourself, Subhash?
Yeah. Could you hear me?
Yes, Subhash.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, Subhash.
Hi, Subhash. Yes, I can. Yes.
Hello.
I can hear you, Subhash. Good evening.
Yeah. Good evening.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
This is Subhash from Amrita College, Bangalore.
Pleasure, Subhash.
Yeah. I am interested in the area of research with self-driving cars. I think you had an idea about it.
Autonomous cars. Yes.
Yeah. And how to approach those things? Like, do you think that actually works out?
See, a lot of things that are happening now were in question many years back. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. So don't have that notion something is not going to work out. I think even that has a great future, man. And a lot of companies have built cars and they're testing cars. And for example, Tesla, I think it's autonomous level 6 or 7, I'm not sure. But yes, those things are happening. With the right infrastructure, things will happen. Okay, so don't feel demotivated with this doubt in your head. If you know, pursue that. I think you should pursue it. It's a great field, and you know, if you're doing that, all those values and all those knowledge is gonna hold good for so many other domains. So many other domains, because you know there is artificial intelligence, there is augmented reality, there are so many things that are interconnected. So if you feel that is interesting for you, go ahead, man. Don't stop yourself. I think you should go ahead.
Perfect. Shahid, one of the things that I also wanted to share with Subhash is, Subhash, till now, the only probably a course I have seen in terms of autonomous cars is, I think, by Udacity, which is running a full-fledged nano degree program. I have not seen any other programs. In case I do come across this, I'll specifically share it with you.
Like I said, Subhash, if that area interests you, try to do a small course. See how it goes. See if you know if it captures your interest. See if you have the skill set, and then you know plan for larger formal education in that domain.
Beautiful. So we have a question from Rahul. He specifically wants to understand about Hyperion. So his question is, what is the next phase for Hyperion? Where is Hyperion headed next?
Yeah, like I said, we've successfully built the production prototype. We're halfway through. We started testing. Next is the tooling, and then planning and preparation for the production. So as of now, for the next year, if we come out of this crisis soon and then we start, if all the funds come in, then for the next year, I plan to build 50 cars. That is my plan. Yeah, 50 cars, and those cars are to be sold by invitation only. So I want to make it very niche. And if those 50 cars do well, then for the next year, I plan to probably double or triple the numbers. And you know, I'm not in a hurry, or I'm not desperate to make huge profits or set economic target. That's not the plan here. Here we want to make sure the people are happy, our customers are happy, the car is performing well. The whole the system, the whole company as the car manufacturer is performing well, and then we can take it to next level and advance step by step. And if things are going well, like I said, in the third year, if people are interested, if investors want to come on board, we plan to develop a electric prototype as well. So that is the road ahead as of now. And I don't want to think too far, because let's cross this bridge and then probably plan the next.
Hey, perfect. Totally, Shahid. Shahid, I think most of the questions have been in a similar thing. There is one question. I'll open it up for you to share this. So in terms of, the question has been in terms of Hyperion and Motor Minds and the whole car manufacturing process, right? What are the financial resources required to launch something like this? Because you said it's a journey of about 5 to 6 years minimum.
Because see, for me, I spent almost 3.5-4 years to bring the car out.
Shahid, one moment. Your voice is not audible.
Is it what's happening? Is it breaking or something?
It's breaking. I think the internet is full red. I think the internet connectivity is low.
Is it? Hang on. Let me just. Yogi, is it better now?
Much better.
Yes. Okay. So where was I?
We were talking about the financial resources to start off something like that. Yeah.
Like I said, I spent about 3.5-4 years. Parallelly, I also started Motormind, and I had to parallelly run the business, also generate some revenue. Then also for building the Hyperion, yes, I had to take help from home, from family business. So some amount of savings from there has been put there as well. See, I cannot give you an exact figure. Okay, if somebody like this, I mean, somebody were to do something like this somewhere else, it would be very, very expensive, because I hear you will be spending at least 4 to 5 crores if you have to make a decent prototype.
Wow.
4 to 5 crores. I would have done this at 1/10 of the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, 1/10 of the cost. Like I said again, I spread it across 3.5, 4 years. I had to establish my business, I had to run the business also, generate income from there. I put that savings there, then savings for my family business. So in my case, the picture was totally different. But let's say if I didn't build it with my own hand, if I had to go to an organization, if I had to collaborate with others to do it, you're looking at anywhere from 2 to 4 crores, depending on the complexity of the project.
Got it. Thanks for clarifying that for sure, because many of them are taken aback by the high costs involved in especially the car industry, right?
There is, see, that's one advantage I had. That's how I was able to prove my point that so and so things can be done as an individual, as a small company, because like I said, everything was homegrown. The approach was totally different, and how corporates approach it is totally different.
Totally. They are into mass production. This is not a mass production car, right? This is like a niche, exclusive experience car.
Yeah, it's more of a homegrown, garage manufacturing sort of thing. But now it's changed. But when I started this, it was like that.
Beautiful. So there's another question specifically for Hyperion. They see students are trying to understand more about specs of Hyperion, right? So this question is, what is the speed that Hyperion 1 can achieve at this point of time? And what is the power output of the engine?
Okay, see, for the production version, we've got our spec sort of finalized. The engine is about 300 bhp plus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we've limited the speed to 220. We are also having an option of the 6-speed sequential gearbox, which will give you speed of up to 260. But if you see the world over, cars of this category, their speeds are limited to these numbers, because again there is safety concern. Then it's open, so there is a limit with which how much of air can be thrown at your face also. So there are a lot of aspects which control that. So as of now, it is a 220 and 260. We have two options, which is a 5-speed manual and then a 6-speed sequential gearbox. But it's going to be fun to drive. It's going to be a celebration on its own. It's going to be fireworks. So that's how the whole package has been designed.
Totally. Yeah. Shahid, so this question was asked by Manoj Adiga. I'll just probably share. So he runs a mechanical engineering Instagram page with about 130K followers. So he's asking all this probably to publish. I don't know. So he's just trying to get a lot more information about the car.
Okay, because see, I'm not, as you can see, apart from the first prototype, nothing of the current production version has been made public, because I have to keep a lot of things confidential.
Of course.
Only when it's ready to launch, we are going to publicize things. So I cannot share much information. But since all of them are gathered, if you can allow me to share my screen, I can show you how the production version will look like.
Please go ahead, Shahid.
Don't take screenshots.
I don't think anyone can take screenshots. If you want, I'll stop the Facebook live and recording if it's required.
Confidential, but I'm not able to contain my excitement. I just want to show you guys how it looks.
Sure. Shahid, in that case, what I'll do is I'll probably stop the Facebook live and the recording. Would that be okay? Would that be required?
Don't worry, that's okay. Probably I'll see if I can share my screen.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think share content. No?
Just share screen at the bottom. That's just the option of sharing screen.
I'm unable to find that. I can see there is a green icon with the arrow pointing upwards.
Yes.
Is that the one?
Yes.
It says photos. Let me just try and click. Are you able to see my screen now?
No, Shahid, we're not able to see.
Now something is visible?
No, no.
Because I'm using this iPad and
I'm able to see a white screen.
just a white screen. No?
Yeah.
Because I'm not getting an option which says share screen. I'm getting options like photos, bookmarks, whiteboard.
Is that if it's there on photos, you can probably check the photos side.
Because no, it's actually in a PDF file. It's not in my gallery. That's or hang on. Sorry, I'm just taking a little bit more time.
No problem, Shahid. I think others also are waiting for that only.
They will wait.
They're excited about this.
Okay, hang on.
I think Shahid's trying to take a screenshot and then share the screenshot.
Because it says photos, so I think this should work. Are you able to see?
Not yet. Yeah, now yes.
Did it go off? Sorry.
Yeah, it went off. It went off.
Went off.
Yeah.
Hang on. I think I got the idea what to do. Okay, are you able to see this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is how the production version looks like. So if you've seen the version before, that was without a roof. This is with the detachable roof that I am developing. So let me show you another angle. Are you able to see this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is how the version looks with the roof. And if you see the rear wing, it has an active spoiler with flaps. So basically, when those open up, it increases the downforce to some extent. And even the front wing, if you see, it's very totally inspired from Formula One. So this is the direction that I am headed. So I'll also show you a track version of the thing here. So this is how the track version looks like. It doesn't have a roof; it just has a small visor, but then scissor doors and all that. And there is much more. So as of now, this is all I can share with you guys. I hope you guys liked it.
Beautiful. I think they're all loving it for sure.
I wish I could see their reaction.
No. The question they're asking: Can I share the pic?
No. If you please don't share because I trusted you and share.
So guys, please don't share the pics. Just a small request from him because he wants.
But yes, just wait for a couple of months. I will start, sharing in detail online. So don't worry because there's some more changes that are taking place. So let's wait.
Totally. Shahid, I think we've almost covered all the questions in terms of grouping of the questions.
Great.
There are two questions that are coming up very often, right? As a question. One is you've already answered the job part, especially for freshers. But if someone as a hobby wants to do an internship with Motorminds, how do they go about it?
I've had a lot of interns come and go. But that again depends on the kind of projects we are working on. If we can take you and mentor you, because what happens is we are a very small team. So unlike a large organization, we don't have mentorship or internship programs as such. Mm-hmm. So even if someone comes in, if it's a project where he can be a part of, then yes, it's okay. Because if he comes and nobody is able to mentor, nobody is able to guide, then it becomes pointless because everybody is busy with a lot of stuff that is happening here. So it purely depends on what sort of project we are working on, and if somebody gets in touch and if you're able to offer that internship, yes, definitely we can. We have been doing it also. So
beautiful, Shahid. I think. Okay, Shahid, if they have to reach out to you, okay. Before that, okay, there is a question from Manoj. He's asking not about the pictures that you have showed here, but the pictures you have already posted on your Instagram page. Can that be shared?
Yeah. But whatever is already online, yes, it's public. Nobody can stop you, right?
Perfect, Manoj. I think you've got your answer.
Yeah.
Okay, Shahid. Oh yeah. So now many of them want to reach out to you or probably get in touch with you. So how do they do that?
Please get in touch with us on info@motormind.in. We reply, within a day. So info@motormind. You can send in your if it's something career related, please send it to careers@motormind.in.
Motormind.in, right? Careers.
Yes.
No, I've typed it in the chat, so no problem.
Yeah, you can.
I've already done it.
Done it, no? Motormind. See, but yeah, careers@motormind. Okay. Yeah.
Thanks a lot for doing that too. Perfect, Shahid. I think with that, on behalf of CII and Young Indians, I would like to thank you for taking your time off and then coming and chatting.
Pleasure. Gratitude from my end as well for inviting me to your show and giving me the opportunity to share my experience and to some extent even inspire and give directions to all these young guys out there.
Totally. I just hope
I hope I don't sound very old. I'm also a young man.
That's the reason we got you, right? We're only getting people who are like who are able to relate to us, right? The youth.
Yeah.
Because we don't want like some 30 years old people coming and explaining us. We want, when I'm saying 30-year experienced folks, 30 years in the industry, we want younger folks to come and tell us because they are the ones we're able to relate to as such. If you look at it, right? We've had like a very small generation gap. I wouldn't call generation gap, but a gap here.
But I think most of the lads at this age are confused. Even I used to be a confused student. That's okay. It's natural. But don't overthink. Whatever you're doing, do it. Try to sail through. There'll be so many subjects that you don't like. But if you have to pass the examination, it's like crossing the bridge. You have to learn all of it. That is okay, man. Don't stress yourself. And don't forget to enjoy life. Don't forget to spend time with family. Balance everything. A lot of things can go and come back, but not time. So, value it a lot.
Totally. So, yes. On behalf of CII and YI, I again thank you for doing this.
My pleasure.
And you've also taken extra time. You've already shot the time by about 35 minutes. Thanks a lot for doing that, Shai. It's like amazing that you took that additional time. With that, we will call it an end for today's chat. If you have any questions, do reach out to Shahid. He's available on Instagram too. Motorminds.
I'm very active on Instagram. Please follow me on shahid@motormind.in and also Motormind Automotive. But if you want to reach out to me personally, Shahid Motormind Instagram. Most of the DMs I try and reply, but there are chances I might miss because a lot of hundreds of messages come in. But I try to ensure with utmost sincerity that I can reply to your.
Beautiful. So that's thanks a lot for doing that, Shahid. With that, thanks to each and every one of you for staying with us for the whole 1 hour 40-minute session. It's been amazing to host you each and every time we organize such kind of programs. Thanks a lot.
How many were there in total? Sorry to interrupt.
So we started off with about 74 people. Now we have about 40 of them here.
Okay, they've got bored.
Probably they never expected it to go beyond that time, right? So
probably yeah. That's okay. It doesn't matter.
Beautiful. Thanks a lot, Shahid. Guys, if you want us to organize any other such chat sessions or any programs, do feel free to reach out to us at yi.bengaluru@cii.in. We will try to pick up, based on the number of requests that's coming, we'll pick up new shows and new series to do with you guys. Thank you.
I forgot to mention one thing, Yogi. Sorry, I'm taking up your time now.
Sure, no problem.
Sometime later, when Hyperion goes into production and everything, we plan to start a small academy where we can train people on prototyping and fabrication and all that. But the reason why I'm doing this because when I started, I found it so difficult to learn this kind of things. There was nobody to mentor or there was nothing available formally to train myself. So now that we've had so much of experience, we've gathered so much of knowledge, we want to start passing it on to people who are interested in this domain. So we plan to do that in the future.
Looking forward to that. I think that will help a lot of these car enthusiasts actually get practical knowledge on these things, Shai.
Exactly.
So the moment you're launching it, please tell Yuva. So the moment you're launching it, please tell Yuva. We have 29,000 students across India. We will make sure we fill up the whole academy with students then.
Lovely. I'm looking forward to that, Yogi. Let's do that.
Totally, Shahid. Thank you then. Take care. Have a great day.
grocery shopping. Don't go every day. Don't give excuses at home. Only go out if it's necessary. There is still problem with the COVID. I think another second wave is going ahead. So make sure you guys are safe and follow social distancing, please. Okay.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys. Thanks, Shahid, for joining in today. Perfect, guys. I'll end the session now. Neeraj, yes, we'll keep organizing. I think you've given your email ID, so these guys will keep sharing any other session that's happening then. Take care, guys. I'll just end the meeting so that Shahid and us can get back to other activities that are planned for the day.
Okay. So shall I leave, Yogi?
Yes, Shahid. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.